Well, hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Actually, is there anyone there? Is there anybody there? Because I know that today is the first day of build. Big belly, big dreams. How you doing? Good to see you. Yes, today is the first day of the Microsoft Build event. So when I was thinking, man, should I stream today? Coding heaven. I love it. Book nerd 8642. Good to see you. Yeah, I was really concerned about today because as I speak right now, big belly, big dreams. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, Microsoft Build. It's like this big event that happens once a year, right? Like, who would have guessed? Who saw this coming? Actually, the sessions I'm going to watch aren't until afternoon, my time. Who's that? Emonok? Hey, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I figured, you know what? I'll go ahead and stream on my normal time because everything I want to watch happens after my stream. So if no one else really cares about Microsoft Build, they can come watch me build some Xamarin.Forms apps or something, right? So today is kind of a special stream. I'm doing a stream for what's called the COVID health hack, and it's a hackathon that's going on to help support the efforts for the COVID-19 virus, and there's some cool prizes that you can win, and all this cool stuff. So I was approached, and like, hey Brian, why don't you stream something for people who participate in this health hack? Maybe show them something new, something they haven't seen before that they could play with in their application. So I thought, well, if this is a COVID health hack, mobile is definitely going to be a target, right? You're definitely going to want to write a mobile app. And honestly, the easiest way for me to write a mobile app was with Xamarin.Forms. But using Xamarin.Forms by itself is, you know, only because the code you'll write with a basic Xamarin.Forms app is not going to be pretty. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault, okay? Don't blame yourself. Blame Microsoft. Because the framework that they give you for building Xamarin.Forms applications is not very, how should I put this lightly? Mortelbox, good to see you. Thanks for joining. So, Xamarin.Forms does not really help you enforce good coding practices. It's almost the opposite. They actually encourage very bad coding practices. So what I'm going to show you today is how you can actually take advantage of Xamarin.Forms, but actually have good coding practices and write your apps in a way to where they're actually testable, like unit tests. Those things that we should be writing, but most of us don't. But we should be writing them. They're testable, extensible, right? You can actually extend something without breaking something else, right? Easy to maintain. All this great stuff, right? All the great things that you hear about when writing applications and coding, about separation of concerns and, you know, following best practices and all this great stuff. I'm going to show you how to do that today. So today I'm going to focus on a very introduction level to writing Xamarin.Forms app with a library called Prism. Kung Fury keyboard. Kung Fury. Kung Fury. That's it, not furry. Fury. Kung Fury keyboard. It's garbage. Yeah. It's got some challenges. It definitely has some challenges. A default Xamarin.Forms app in its API does not really set you up for success in writing a very clean code base. That's for sure. However, I'm going to show you how to fix that today. Right? So today's course... Not course, but today's stream, I should say. I've been doing my Pluralsight course, so I'm still in Pluralsight mode, right? But yeah, so today's stream will be just an introduction to writing a Xamarin.Forms app using Prism, which is going to not really force you, but it's going to really help guide you to write a much cleaner, separated code base. Very loosely coupled. it's just the way it's put together. Okay. So that's what we're doing today. Should be a lot of fun. Actually, I better make sure I have all my devices plugged in. Let me see. So today, I'm going to be using this Nexus 7 here to deploy our apps that we're playing with. So let's go ahead and let me fire up my my Visual Studio, and we'll just hop right into it, shall we? Let's just get into some code. All right, where's my Visual Studio for one? There we go. Oh, another thing, I'm actually going to try the dark theme. Okay, everyone was getting on me about how, I'm using the light theme. Brian, how could you do the light theme? That's heresy, blasphemy. Like, how dare you use the light theme? So you know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to try using a dark theme for a week or two, and I'm going to see how I like it. Okay? Harrison could have used this video about 2 years ago. Yeah. Well, we're getting it now, right? Better late than never, right? Java architect, I'm hungry for Prism food. Well, I am about to just stuff Prism down your throat. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, so I'm going to try the dark theme. I don't want to hear it anymore. Brian. You're using the light theme. How dare you? I'm going to try it. I'm going to see how I like it, right? See how I like it. So I had a couple of options. I was thinking, okay, well, how should I start this? Right? I could start it from using the Prism template pack extension and just creating Prism apps. But you know what? We're going to start from ground zero, which is just a normal Xamarin.Forms app, which, actually, do I already have one of those? As you can see, I've been playing around a lot with Uno. Prism for Uno, but when UI, nope. Oh, here's one. Mobile app, Xamarin.Forms. You know what? We're going to start with a basic Xamarin.Forms application and just start building our way up. App 1, sure. I don't care what it's called. Do you guys care what it's called? I don't care what it's called. And I do have a complaint about their wizard here. I don't know if they fixed their master detail template. But before, it was like a tabbed page, and it wasn't really a master detail, so that really annoyed me. I haven't looked at it since. They might have fixed it. I'm not sure. But I've had a lot of complaints about their previous project templates. So we're going to start with a blank one. Okay. And I'm only doing... Actually, I should have unchecked iOS. I don't have an iOS device. Should have just been Android, but it is what it is. All right, so... Oh, actually... Harrison, this is what took me the longest while working on Mac. All the videos show the template pack. Yeah, okay, well, this is going to be easy because I'm not going to use the template pack. I might show it, like, towards the end. Actually, I'm going to show a lot of cool tools towards the end. A lot of cool tools. Okay, but we're gonna work our way up to that. So the first thing I need to do before we get started into this is I need to explain how I'm going to be visualizing this device, okay? Because we're going to deploy to a real device. However, you need to be able to see this device, right? So let me open up. I got a program I use. Let me just launch this real quick while that's building. Here we go. So I have this app called Visor. Okay. Now, Visor... Wait, what happened here? Oh, I changed my resolution. Don't you do this... Oh, there we go. I changed my resolution, so we'll shrink that down a little bit. So Visor is a program that allows me to mirror a real device. So like I can see how I can swipe around on here, do that, and it actually, whatever I do on the device, actually you'll see it mirrored on this mirroring. It's not an emulator because it's actual a real device, but it mirrors my device onto my machine, right? Now you're gonna say, Brian, why'd you do that? Well, because the emulators suck. I always have problems with the emulators on my machine. So I was like, you know what? I stopped using emulators. I just use real devices now. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's how I'm showing this Nexus we're going to be working with, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, we might start just by running this app here just to see kind of what we get when we create file new. Okay, file new, Xamarin.Forms. Let's see what they give us. It's pretty basic. Just looking at the app structure here, you can see all we have is a main page, right? There's really not much to it. Okay. Here we go. See, now, that seemed like it took a while, which is actually still taking a little bit, but just imagine if that was an emulator, it would take forever. One of my biggest complaints. Okay, so we have a very basic application. Now, let me kind of just tell you how a Xamarin.Forms app is structured, right? First, what we see is this, I'm going to call it a shared project, but technically it's not a shared project. It's actually a net standard project. And this is where all of your work goes, essentially. This is where all your views, your view models, your logic, all the app content goes in this project. Then you have these other projects. These are considered project heads. And these project heads are specific to the platform you're targeting. In this case, iOS, Android, there's UWP, but I never target UWP. There's Mac, there's Watch, there's all kinds of stuff. Now, there's WPF, but don't ever do that. Do not ever use Xamarin.Forms for WPF app. I will personally come find you and slap you. Don't do it. Don't do it, okay? However, the main project we care about is this one right here. And there's some cool features that Xamarin has recently shipped, actually. So let's go ahead and open up our main page. Now, this app.xaml file, this is the entry point into the application, right? So if you see this resources area, this is where you're going to put any type of resources you're going to be sharing throughout your application. Kittles, thanks for the follow. Thanks for joining. Harrison, if I do, will you give me a hint with the project that you owe me for doing that? Oh my god. I might actually. It might be worth it. I'm there, right? I might as well. Let's sit down and pair a program. And then we have this app.xaml.cs, right? This is where, let me minimize some of this here and here. So the app class is a partial class. It's made up of two parts, right? You have the XAML part, and then you have the code part. Now, the XAML part, as I mentioned, this is where you're going to put a lot of your shared resources, such as fonts, colors, images, things like that. You're going to share throughout your entire application. But this is kind of where the magic happens, in the code, right? We see it's a partial class because it's divided between a XAML and a C# code. And here you can see in the app constructor, we are calling a new instance of our main page. And that is exactly what we see here. Now, a new feature that was just added to Xamarin.Forms, which makes this a lot better to work with, is hot reload. So, for example, let's add, while this is running, let's set the font size like 48. And I'm going to hit save and then watch the emulator over here after a quick pause. Boom. Check that out. Let me make that a little smaller so it all fits on there. Right? So we can make real-time changes. And the emulator will it will hot reload. Now, back in the day, this sucked because you didn't have this. And when I say back in the day, I mean like 4 weeks ago. Right? Like 4 weeks ago, you couldn't do this. Okay, so imagine having to stop debugging, make a small change, spin everything back up just to hopefully see that your change was right. If it's not right, stop debugging, make the change. Like, yeah, not pretty. However, that's been fixed. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Not gonna lie. I love it. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's convert this to a Prism application. Okay. And as we start going through this process, I'll explain why Xamarin sucks in this way and why Prism makes it better doing it that way. Okay. So whenever I start a new Prism project, I always start by deleting the main page that they give me. Okay, always do that. And then I start creating two folders. I'll create a views folder because this is where all my views are going to go, right? And then I'm going to create a view models folder. And obviously, this is where my view models will go. We'll explain kind of what view models are later on if someone watching is not really familiar with the view model approach. So now we can recreate whatever we want. And I'll just keep it main page. Xamarin.Forms, content page. I'll call it main page. Okay, so same thing. Nothing really changes. I'm just gonna work through this slowly. Very slowly. Now that we kind of have restructured our app a little bit, you know what? Let's go ahead and add. Should we do that right now? No, let's not do that right now. What we want to do first is we want to convert this to a Prism application, and then I'll explain exactly kind of what you get by doing that. So to convert this is actually quite simple. We're simply going to manage our NuGet packages. We're going to browse for Prism dot something. What is that ignorable in the XAML? Great question. Actually, and I really hate this. I hate that they put this in here because you hardly ever use it. Ignorable, which I've never used, allows you to simply ignore your markup. You ignore various aspects of your markup. So let's actually look that up. XAML ignore. All it does is that you will ignore that markup. That's it. Right? So you just prefix that like ignorable. Yeah, ignorable prefix, this element can be ignored. That's all it does. It's like for design stuff, right? Yeah, Mortero box. See? Yeah. It's design stuff. I've never used it. I personally even delete these. Because I don't ever use them. Okay, so back to our NuGet packages. Now, when you're going to use Prism for the first time, it's important to understand that Prism relies on using a dependency injection container. And I will talk about dependency injection later on today. But for now, just realize there's two you're going to choose from. Prism.dryIOC, right? Or you have Unity. So we'll go Prism.Forms. Unity.Forms or dryIOC. I used to be a big Unity person. Like I really loved Unity, but lately I've actually liked dryIOC. Okay. So we're going to use dryIOC in this example. And honestly, you're not going to know the difference. To you, you're not going to care. Because you're rarely ever going to use a dryIOC API. Because it's just going to happen magically. Okay, error reading contents of source file. Well, that's weird. Am I running? I'm not debugging, am I? No. It's still installed, right? Yeah, it's still installed. Let's do this. Let's do a rebuild. Yeah, okay, that works fine. Okay, so we have added the Prism NuGet packages, and let me just verify that worked because I got a weird error. Yeah, right there. Perfect. Prism dryIOC.forms. Okay. Now, all we have to do to convert this to a Prism application is we're going to modify application to Prism application. And then we're going to get this little light bulb that tells us kind of how to fix this. We're going to bring in the XMLNS for Prism library. And that's it. Now you have a choice. You can decide to just delete this altogether, like this, because it's a partial class. You don't have to have this decoration there. Or you can place that there and it's all fine and dandy. Do we want to do... I think that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to delete all of that. You, but can I swim across these seas? We're in And my IntelliSense is not working, and it really annoys me when this happens. So Visual Studio definitely has some issues still. Do I get it now? Yes, okay, now I got it. So essentially, I had to build to get a fail because the base application, Prism Application, is an abstract class. And so I was just trying to get this little light bulb here so I can get my implement abstract class, and we can kind of talk about what we need to do here. Right? Yes. Freaking Intel, Ziggy, right? So, like I said, you don't have to have this Prism application there if you don't want to have it. It's a partial class. It's already inferred. It's a total preference. Whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter. Okay? Now, uninitialized and register types are two abstract members on the Prism base class. Uninitialized is what happens when the app is initialized. When the Prism application base class goes through its entire initialization process, registering all the services and all the great stuff that needs to happen in order for this to function. You don't care what that is. All you need to know is, yes, it's done initializing, and now we have this method. So we're going to actually copy and paste this information out of the constructor and right here into our onInitialize, because that's where it goes in a Prism application. And if you want, you can delete that constructor, add more to it, doesn't matter. We'll leave it just for fun. So let's go ahead and rebuild. And we're going to run this, and you're going to see nothing really changed. Like, it's going to behave the same. Okay? But we are now running a Prism application. That's how easy it is. We're using Prism. Okay? Now, as we get further along, you're going to start going, oh, crap! Holy... Okay, I understand what Prism is now. But for now, it's still kind of like, still intro, right? We're still just getting started here. Let me open that back up. Yeah, I love Visor, man. Visor's awesome. If you haven't used it, it's a free version. They have a free version, but I would recommend the paid if you can afford it. I think it's like $40 or something like that. It's not too bad, actually, for what you get. So XAML hot reload initialize. Okay, so here we are. We're back to kind of where we started, right? Our main page, the one that we actually recreated here. Our hot reload should still work. So if I change the font size back to, I don't know, was it 26? Did we do? I don't know. Yeah, hot reload still works. Everything still works. Everything still works. But we're in a Prism application now. Okay. And so what does that really mean, Brian? Well, let's start playing around a little bit with this main page. Just a little bit, okay? Imana, thanks for making Prism Man. My first job as a dev was to create an app. The wise guy that started the app for me had used Prism. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so actually, for those of you wondering, well, kind of how prevalent is Prism out there in the real world? Well, we surpassed 11 million downloads since Prism was first released onto Nougat. So that should give you some scope of just how prevalent Prism is out there in the real world, right? So, yeah, thanks. Yes, awesome. It is awesome. That's amazing. Amazing. 11 million downloads. Okay, so I'm thinking we should start talking about the first pattern that you're going to run into. Mortel Box, I agree. Prism is awesome. I agree with you. You are right. You are very right. Now, I'm not saying that just because I helped write the thing. No. I'm not biased at all. Okay, but I think the first pattern we should start talking about that you're going to be introduced to or should know about is the Mvvm pattern. And the Mvvm pattern stands for model, view, view model. Okay, so we have our view right here. This XAML markup is our view. Now, historically, if you're writing a Xamarin.Forms app, you're in the code behind writing all kinds of nasty code back here. Now, you may be saying, well, Brian, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that, major problem with that, is testability. once you start coupling your code to your page code behind, your testability tanks. Just bye. Sorry. See ya. Not testable. Then you'll start using a lot of statics back here, which makes it even worse. And it just keep compiling. It just piles on, right? Each problem you run into. And then it's going to get to a point where you make a change in one line of the code behind and you break something else in your view because you're not accounting for, oh, I need to disable this button. I need to enable this button. I need to do this, right? So, like, for example, what should we do here? Let's do this. Let's just add a button real quick. And the content will be just click me. Doesn't matter. I don't care what it says. Okay, so what's this telling me? Do I need to do it? Oh yeah, Xamarin.Forms, sorry. I just came out of WPF, so the XAML syntax is a little different. I'm still in the WPF mindset. We'll say click me. And so, what would normally happen is if you would want to handle something happening on this button, you would have to add a click event. Then you would have to come in here and say, oh, what do I want to happen? Oh, I need to update this text. Well, then you need to give this text a name, right? Like text. And then I'll come back here and say, oh, let's say text equals something, right? Whatever. It equals something. And then you're working, you're up and going. But then what happens when it's like, well, you know what? You know, if the text says this, well, then I want the button disabled. Well, crap. Well, then I got to come in here. I got to give this button a name, right? And then you come back here and you start saying, okay, well, now I'm going to say button dot is enabled equals false, right? Because something happened. Otherwise, it's true. And you could just imagine the logic tree you're going to write to update text, control the state of the button, and all that mess. And every time you want to access something in this code behind, you're going to have to expose a UI element to do that. So let's delete all this. So what we want to do is we actually want to focus on breaking that coupling. We want to break the coupling between the logic that invokes when you hit that button and the actual view itself. And to do that, we're going to introduce what's called a view model. So let's add a new class. Main page view model. All right, so all a view model is, it's just state. It's all the state and logic that powers your view. That's it. There's nothing else to it. That's how simple it is. Done. You know Mvvm. Okay. Now the other M in that, the Mvvm, is the model, right? Is like, the model is like the person, right? If you had a person object, you would have person, my person, right? It would be a property you would expose. That's the model, person object, or the car, or the whatever, or the to-do list, or whatever it is. Your model, okay? So let's take the example we just had, and we have to create some properties. Now, the first rule in Mvvm is I notify property change. It's an interface that looks like this. I notify property change, and you have to implement the interface. You have to add a method, yada, yada, yada. But we're not going to do this, okay? Because Prism provides what's called a bindable base, which has that built in. Now, one thing I am going to use out of the Prism template pack is a snippet, because I do have a time limit, right? So I have some code snippets that I ship in the Prism template pack that helps speed up development. And whoops. And all this does is allow me to create a property that automatically invokes the iNotify property change. So let's do this. Let's say equals default text. Okay. Now, we have a property. The next step is to create a binding. Okay, so let's go into our main page. And for example, this text is now, we're going to create a binding. And to do that, finding name of property. In this case, the name of the property is, did I call it text? Or did I call it title? What did I call it? I called it title. Okay, sorry. The name of the property is title. Now, we're not quite done yet. The next step is we need to create the relationship between the view and the view model. Now, if you're using a code behind approach, chances are you'll do something like binding context. Whoops, wrong button. Binding context equals new main page view model, right? You'll do something like that if you're doing code behind, but we're not doing that at all. We're going to use the Prism View Model Locator. Okay, so we're going to add a new namespace. And we'll just add one to Prism. And we'll say Prism View Model Locator, AutoWire View Model, true. We're done. So you say, well, Brian, what do you mean we're done? So Prism has a concept of what's called the View Model Locator. And the View Model Locator essentially is a, what is it? It's a class, but think of it as a service, if you will, right? Essentially, all it does is it uses a convention, and the convention is the name of the page plus view model equals view model. So it will take the name of the page, in this case, main page, and then it's going to search the view model's namespace for a class called main page view model. It's going to append those two words together and find that class. When it finds that class, it's going to automatically create an instance of that class and set the binding context for you automatically. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this now. Okay, do I need to do a build here? Am I running? What's going on? I'm getting this problem again. Could not find... I got that problem last time. Maybe I should do a clean. We just ran it. Yeah, normal 4G, I know. I know. Build is going on right now. What is this all about? Okay, let's do this. We're going to have to open this. Let's delete the OBJ and bin. We just ran this. Just did it. Delete that. Huh. Cannot find that item. Cannot find this item. That is very interesting. Now, unfortunately, when you're doing Xamarin.Forms, you're going to run into this stuff where Visual Studio just hates you. Like, all of a sudden, it fails. Just suddenly. We just ran this. What if we rebuild here? Right, we just ran this app. It was just working. Okay. Let's close. And we'll reopen. Maybe VS had some weird, something locked. I don't know. All right. Look good? Look good? What the heck? Now I don't have any errors. You see that? Oh, wait, did it work that time? It said it failed, but it worked. I don't know. What the heck is going on here? Well, it's obviously there because we get IntelliSense. See, it says it can't find app. What the heck? Okay, let's try this then. Let's just remove that real quick. Let's do a build. And that worked? That worked? Really? XMLNS. Prism. Did we break anything? We'll do it one thing at a time. Okay, so it worked. That's fine. It totally worked. Okay. Yep. God, you gotta be kidding me. That is crazy. Value cannot be null. That's good. Huh. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna just copy this. Let's add another one. Fun time. And see, this is why I like to use my templates, because my templates work. Okay. What the heck is going on? Oh! Don't tell me I'm running into a path too long exception. You know what? I bet that's it. Let's do this. I'm gonna move this. We're gonna copy this out to a new location. I'm curious if this was the problem. So let's copy that over. So another problem with Xamarin.Forms development is if your paths are too long, you'll get randomized build errors. And so that path could have been, yeah. Imonok used to run into the same problem. Yeah, so I have a feeling... And their errors, you'll never know because it doesn't tell you, oh, your path is too long. So let's try this again. I might have to delete. Okay, we're closer. Restore nougats. If not, I'm going to use the Prism template pack and create my project. I'm going to delete the bin, obj, bin, obj. Let's do a rebuild. DJ Noke! Thank you for the follow. Noke, no. Why is it that not working? Bird hi. How's it going? Okay, that's it. We're abandoning this. I'm gonna show off a new tool. Where's my Prism template pack? Prism. Blank app. Netcore, nope. Blank app, Xamarin.Forms. And we want dev. Short. Nice and short. I don't want UWP. I don't want iOS. I'll take dry IOC and let's create a project. No, it wasn't the NuGet package. It was something weird with that. Whoa! Hey, let's go ahead and install this, shall we? So I've recently reloaded my computer, so... Oh, you know what? Maybe it was because I didn't have the SDK installed. No, because we ran it. We actually ran the app on my device. We saw it running, so that wasn't it. Right? That wasn't it at all. So while that's installing that R4... Let's take a look at kind of what we have here. So the Prism template pack, if you're curious, if you go to manage extensions inside Visual Studio and we go installed, I have what's called the Prism template pack. And it's essentially a collection of item templates, project templates, and code snippets that help you be more efficient and you know, increase your productivity with creating Prism applications. Okay, so now we're moving, installing. Are we ready? Your task will continue running in the background. Okay, I think we're good. Let's build this. Okay, succeeded. Yeah, I don't know what problem was with that freaking project. Anyways, so this is almost exactly what we did before, except it's slightly different. You're going to see some of this navigation stuff. We're not in navigation yet, okay? I'll talk about navigation later, but for now, just know this is kind of there. this is there. We'll get back to that.
You love me. You really love me.
What was that? The Heights. Thank you for the follow. Okay, so now that we're actually got around that weird compile issue, okay, I'll come back to the navigation, but let's get back to the view model. What do we have in our main page? Okay, welcome to Xamarin.Forms. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and add our button back to this. Okay. Okay, let's do that. Okay, in our text was click me.
When one
right?
person meets
Another
come
come
together.
together. We are ending. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. What is that? Rude La Fuente. Thank you for the follow. Okay, so now we have this. Our text we wanted to actually bind. So we had a binding here. I think we called it title. We already have a view model here, so let's go into that. What's in our view model base? Oh, we have a title property in our view model base, so that makes it really easy. So let's go ahead and set this. Actually, I don't want to confuse you. Let's get rid of this and just go bindable base just like we had before. I'm going to add that. Okay. Default value. Okay. Took a while to get back, but we're where we need to be. Perfect. Okay, so same thing has happened. Okay, nothing else has changed. What we want to happen now, I just want to run this and make sure that this freaking works. So it's funny. I recently on Twitter, I asked a question to everyone because I noticed that a lot of new people that are coming into code, that the first thing they jump into is web. They go web right off the bat. I was just curious, like, well, why do all the new students or people thinking of changing careers, going into web, going into tech, get into web first? And it's things like this. This is such a pain where it's like, look, we added a page and all of a sudden it wouldn't work. Right? Like just random build errors and just all kinds of just weird stuff. Stuff just needs to work. And with web, the biggest theme when people were talking about web was, well, it's easy to use, to get started with. Low barrier to entry. You don't need to install anything. You use Notepad. All right, all that crazy stuff. Okay, what do we got here? There we go. Okay, so there it is. Default value. Okay, so what we did is the view model locator, right? It went and found this view model, and it associated the binding context, and this is the default value. See that? So what happens? Actually, I haven't tested this. What happens if I change this in code? Does the hot reload work? Testing. I haven't tried this before. This is C# code I'm changing. Does that up? I don't think it updates. Nope. Okay, so they're not updating C# code. Harrison, there's also the cost of entry. I don't have to have any devices to build a website. Yeah, true. Okay. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to click this button. And when we click this button, we're going to invoke some code that changes that value of this title, right? So to do that, we're going to add what's called a command. So on a button, you had that click event, right? And if you wanted to control the state of that button, you would have to manually do that. Well, the great thing about a command is that essentially it's an abstraction around an event handler, right? You can think of a command as an event handler. A command is quite simple. Now, I'm going to use a code snippet. No, I'm not going to use a code snippet. Actually, let's just create one. So in Prism, we have what's called a delegate command. I'll call this click command. Right? And I'll just say get set. It's fine. And then we need a CTOR because I'm going to walk through this. Harrison should have hot restart on Windows. Yeah, no kidding. Demonic, I think it's only XAML that updates on hot reload. Yeah, I think if we're going to do C#, you have to actually restart it. I haven't really played with it a bunch, but I think there's some type of... where you don't have to like stop and restart your debugging, but you have to kind of restart the app somehow. I'll look into that. I think there's a way to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is going to create this click command, a new instance of this delegate command. And all this does is it allows you to provide a delegate or a method to invoke when that button is clicked. So in this case, we'll say, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Execute click. All right. So we have this execute click. And when this is clicked, let's say that we're going to update the title. I don't know. Button was clicked. Sure. Works for me. But another cool thing about this is you can say can execute click. And this essentially allows you to use business logic to control the state of the button. So, for example, if I say false, we're going to run this. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't bind it. Do I have time? Oh, maybe. Let's see if I had time for that. Let's see if we got that. Ugh. No, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Okay, let's restart it. I didn't make it in time. So what I had to do was... Oh, did I not make that public either? Did I make that in time? See, that's why I use... whatchamacallit? Snippets, because I'm just used to using them. One more time. Okay, it's public. We created our binding, so instead of a click event, we bound our command to the button's command, and now we're running the app, and I think I have everything where it needs to be. Sync. I'm pretty sure. Though I can't remember if Xamarin.Forms requires iNotify property change on a command. I don't remember. Nope, it doesn't. Cool. Okay, so as you can see, we have our button. It's disabled. I can't click on it. And that's because the state of that button was controlled from the can execute delegate of this command. So this means I can use business logic to determine if the button can be invoked or not. So let's, for example, let's just do this. Let's add a, I think it's slider. No, not slider. Is it a slider? They don't have a check. Do they have it? Oh my gosh, it's been so long. Checkbox. I'll use checkbox. Checkbox. Okay. Hey, checkbox is new, isn't it? They didn't used to have a checkbox. You know what? We'll create binding is checked. Let's add a property. See, and this is exactly why. I like to use snippets. So now we can return is checked. And we'll say is checked equals false. And I've never used this checkbox before. It's a switch. Yes, thank you. I thought it was something. I couldn't remember. I have been in WPF all week. But I'm going to try out the new checkbox. Let's check it out. I want to see what it looks like. The new Xamarin.Forms checkbox. Because he used to not to have this. And there it is. The checkbox. Cool. Okay. That's actually pretty sweet. Now, I want you to know something else about commands. Now, by default, it's false. Is checked was false. This was unchecked, and the button was disabled. So we have a problem we have to solve here. It must be new. Yeah, it's definitely new. What we need to do is we need to update the state of this button. Basically, we need to call the can execute clicked of this command. Okay, when this is checked property changes. Now, check this out. There are a couple ways to do this. This is one of the coolest features of Prism. You could do it by hand, right? I could totally say click command dot raise can execute changed, right? I could totally do that if I wanted to. Actually, let's just do that. We got time. It just takes a while to reboot the whole cycle of debugging. Okay, so now it works, right? I check the box. The button is enabled. I uncheck the box. It's disabled. So now we check the button and we've updated the text, right? Title was updated. The button was clicked. However, the can execute, can I even invoke this command? Is the button disabled? Is controlled by the text box or the check box, right? Wait, oh, I have something for that. I can't talk. Can't talk. Yes. Harrison, you are right. No one likes dirty setters. I don't like dirty setters. I don't like a lot of code in my setters. All right, so we're going to put this back because the Prism Delegate Command actually has something called .observes property. Actually, let me bring this down here. Now, what this does... Oh, what property? It's called isChecked. So we removed that code from our setter. And now we can look at this and we can say, look, this delegate command is going to automatically observe state changes in this property. And when that happens, it's going to automatically invoke or recheck the state of the can execute click. Pretty cool, right? So let's go ahead and do this. More waiting. Definitely not instant gratification, that's for sure. Gotta wait a couple seconds. It feels forever. It just feels like forever. Okay, so now it's the same behavior, except our code is a little cleaner. It's a lot cleaner. We were able to take that code out of our setter. We just have a simple setter. And now our command is observing the isChecked property for value changes. Right? Pretty cool, right? Well, it doesn't stop there. So in this case, actually, I don't like the dot up there. I like the dot here. In this particular case, the isChecked is a Boolean property. It's a true or false. So you're thinking, well, you know what? I don't even need to have a method for this at all because it's just a true or false. So we're going to get rid of that. And instead of observed property, we're going to use observes can execute. Now, the observes can execute will not only observe the isChecked property for value changes to determine if we need to requery the state of the can execute delegate. It's going to use the return value or this isChecked property as the delegate itself. So we actually we deleted the method can execute click. And instead, we're going to use the result of this property as that delegate itself. So we can clean up all that code and just say, we're just going to observe the can execute is checked. So if there's any value changes on the is checked, we're going to requery the value of is checked for the actual can execute delegate, right? So it works the same, right? Your logic is the same. Nothing changes, but your code just got so much cleaner. Pretty sweet, right? Okay, enough of that. Enough of commands. So that's kind of the basics of commanding, interacting, and controlling state with MVVM. Now, holy crap, it's already 11. I got to speed up a little bit because I got some MS build sessions to attend. Okay. So what should we talk about next? We got so much. Should we... I mean, there's event aggregation. There's maybe navigation. Maybe we should talk about navigation. What does everyone want to talk about here? I think navigation might be kind of cool. There's a lot. There's actually a lot to navigation. Navigation is like the creme de la creme, right? That is the biggest advantage of Prism, actually. So let's talk about navigation. Boop, boop. Okay. So I had to create a new project, right? Because the Xamarin.Forms template just didn't work. My template works. Seems to be a pattern. I don't know. And now we're back into the app.xaml.cs. Now before, this is where we had main page equals new main page. Remember that? We kind of, that code was here. But in this template, it's not there. It actually uses the navigation service. Now, navigation in a Prism app is way different than what you would get inside of a basic plain Jane Xamarin.Forms application. And it's important to kind of understand how navigation works in Xamarin.Forms to really understand the power that you're getting in the Prism navigation service. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a new item, and I'm going to do a Prism template pack item for Xamarin.Forms. Content page. We'll call this View A. And watch what happens when I do this. So not only do I get my View A, I get a view model, and it's registered for navigation. I'll talk about registering for navigation in a second, but I just kind of wanted to highlight kind of how navigation works in Xamarin.Forms in general, because it is a major pain in the butt. Like, no joke. Let me build this. I don't want Visual Studio getting mad at me. Okay, so let's say I'm going to add a click here, because this is how you would normally do it. I think it's navigation. Okay, so in Xamarin.Forms, it's very important to understand that each page has its own navigation stack. Not only that, it has two navigation stacks. So for every page in your app, each page has its own navigation stack. It's not like a global navigation service that you can share at all. Can't do that. Doesn't exist. Okay, so each instance of a page has its own navigation stack. It has a modal stack.
Another one.
SimViewer UK,
Another
thank you for
one.
the follow.
Another
Another
one.
one. Another one.
Another one.
Another one.
And another
And
one.
another one. DJ Khaled, he's crazy. But okay, so there are two navigation stacks. One is a modal navigation stack, and one is a non-modal. Okay, now you're saying, well, Brian, what does that mean? So you remember that main page we had? Application current.main page. This is the kind of code you write in a non-Prism app, by the way. This is so bad. Ugh. Anyways. This is kind of what a modal is. A modal is when you are essentially replacing the root of your application. A modal... This is really difficult to explain. So, a non-modal, or when you push async, so let's go back to navigation.push modal. We'll start with push async. So when you navigate inside of a mobile application and you see that little back button, right? The back button. That's a non-modal navigation because you're inside of what's called a navigation page. So anytime you are within a navigation page, you're going to push async. Okay? Anytime you're within a navigation page, you push async, and you'll get a little back button in the top left corner of your mobile app. Now, if you're going to replace the root of your running application, okay, then it's push modal. Right there. Push modal. Now, push modal is going to replace the root view. Okay, you'll still have a back stack where you can pop. So going back is actually a pop. So you can see how this would get really confusing because you imagine you're in a master detail page. Your detail page is a navigation page that wraps a tab page that wraps another navigate page that has a content page. How does navigation work? Figure that one out, right? It gets very complicated. And you have to understand where you're at. If you are in a modal stack, you have to call pop modal to go back. If you're in an async stack, then you're going to call pop async to go back. For example, if you're not in a navigation page and you call push async, you will get an exception. It won't even work. It will crash your application. So it's very confusing. Now take all that mess of navigation that you get with Xamarin.Forms. And now let's talk about the right way. The right way to do navigation. And that's using Prism. Prism's navigation service. Okay, so let me close that. Let me close that. Now, the first thing you have to do with Prism navigation is you have to register your pages for navigation. Okay? And all that means is you're going to come into your app.xaml.cs. You see this register types? We are registering our types for services or navigation or whatever with our container. Now, remember, I kind of talked about, I kind of mentioned that I would talk about DI when we got to this point. So this is going to lead into a dependency injection explanation. Just know, right? You have to register your page for navigation. So example, container registry, register for navigation, navigation page. Register for navigation, my main page, and use the main page view model. Register for navigation, view A, and use the view A view model. Okay. So these are mapping the view models to the correct page. So it's no longer the view model locator is no longer using a naming convention. It's now being told what to use to assign. So this is better performance. If you're relying on just the naming convention, you're using reflection. It's a slight performance hit. So I always recommend assigning the actual view model to the view, and there's no reflection hit at all. Okay. So when you register your page for navigation, by default, the key of this page is the name of the view. In this case, main page. What I mean by that is, you see this line of code here where we have navigation service, navigate async, and then we have this string. Okay. Well, in Prism, navigation is not done by page types. Okay. It is in Xamarin.Forms. So if we go back to our Xamarin.Forms, and I want to say push async, I have to pass in a page instance. I have to create that and control that. I have to new that view up. That is very bad. Okay. Instead, Prism navigates based on a unique identifier, a key, an experience, whatever you want to call it. And this key maps to a registered page. So in this case, you see where it says navigation page? That's navigation page. You see this where it says /main page? That's the main page. So for example, I can change this name to my page. But the key to that page has now changed to my page. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. You're just mapping a unique identifier, a string, that's going to map the navigation service to the target view. Okay, so for example, let's get rid of navigation page. That's a little bit of deep linking, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So I'm going to call this my page. Now let's go to the main page view model here. And let's get rid of this. I'm going to add a constructor. Oh, I already got one. So here's one of the really cool things about Prism. This is where dependency injection comes in. So Prism relies on DI, dependency injection. Now, dependency injection is a way to achieve what's called inversion of control. Now, you're probably saying, Brian, what the heck is inversion of control? Well, it's actually really easy, and you're doing it now. You just don't know it. Okay, so let's write some pseudocode. Okay, so let's write a class. Let's just call it test. Doesn't matter what we call it. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Harrison, is registering the views faster than using the auto? Yes, much faster. Auto registration uses a ton of reflection at startup, and that is a major performance hit using auto registration. I actually don't like auto registration, but you know, Dan really wanted it. He really wanted auto registration. But even he is starting to see that it's not that great, and he's thinking about replacing it with something else that doesn't use reflection. Okay, so we'll say class test, class, we'll say service, right? Something like this. Let me add a CTOR. Okay. Let's say that we have this class, and in your application, right? And this, whatever this is, it requires a service. So you might do something like var service equals new service, right? I mean, this looks like harmless code. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. This looks like harmless code, right? Not bad. This is the bane of my existence. This is horrible code, in my opinion. You should never be writing this type of code. Okay, and I'm going to show you why right now. So, what we want to do is we want to have inversion of control. We want to take the control of creating these objects and put them onto something else. Now, when I say you already do this, this is how you already do it. Let's say, for example, you had another class, and maybe this was a logger, right? Something like that. And then one day in your code of 100 views, you're like, oh man, this service, I need to start logging. Well, that's okay. I'm going to add a constructor for a logger, and we'll just add it right in there. But guess what you just did? You just broke your entire application. You are broken. Okay? Every place in your app where you have now, when you are manually creating a new instance of this object, you have to go fix. You have to go, oh, okay, now I gotta come in. I gotta say, okay, log, wait. See, what I gotta do? I say logger battery. What the heck? I said var. Okay, I gotta create this new logger. Okay, got that. And then I can pass this logger in. Okay. Okay, done. Okay, I got it. Whew. Okay. Do that everywhere. Everywhere. But what I want to point out right now is when I said you're already doing inversion of control, this is inversion of control. This service requires a logger, and you are manually creating that logger and passing it in. So instead of saying, you know, new logger here, instead of doing this, which is really bad, I didn't even got to testing, right? We haven't talked about testing yet. You are creating it and passing it into your constructor. So you're taking the responsibility of creating this logger and putting it somewhere else. Okay. Now, that's inversion of control. That's simple. That's the basic principle of it. Okay. Now, there's some more nuances to it, but essentially that's the very basic understanding. Now, what Prism does, it uses what's called a dependency injection container to achieve inversion of control. So instead of us manually creating these objects here and passing them into constructors, right? We're going to have a container do that for us automatically. Okay. And so that's one of the reasons we have to register our types with the container. So we go back here and we talk about this container, and we're saying we have to let the container know what our types are. Think of a dependency injection container, such as dry IOC or Unity. Just think of it as something like like a dictionary of types. And when I ask for iappinfo, it's going to give me an instance of this class, right? That's all it is. Very simple. Okay. When I ask for this container, give me that. Okay. So we could take advantage of that. And Prism does. Because all I have to do is if I want to start navigating with Prism inside this main view model, this main page view model, navigation service. I just have to ask for it. That's it. Okay. I just have to ask for this, and now I'm going to get it. Do I have any text? Okay, I don't have any text here, so let's I want to copy some text out. Let's put none of that stuff. We'll just say hello, or we'll say view A. Oh wait, do I have a? I do. Nope, I don't want to do that. I don't want to confuse you too bad right now. Okay, I'll just do some copy and paste. I want this title property. I'm going to set this up really quick. Really quick. Right, view A. Looks good. Okay, that works for me. Go back to my view A. This is going to be binding. Title. Okay, all right. We're good there. Okay, so all I did was I added the interface. I'm just saying, hey, Prism, I would really like to have this iNavigation service. So if you don't mind, whenever you create this view model for me, go ahead and give me that too. That would be great. Thanks. And then I'm going to take this navigation service when that button is clicked. See, we replaced updating the title, and we're going to navigate a sync to view A. Okay. And this is going to await this. Okay. So now I'm just going to say, okay, we have, go back to our view A here. No, not view A. Excuse me. I don't care about view. Who cares about view A? No one cares about view A. Okay. So we have registered our view A for navigation. And remember, we are mapping automatically, Prism automatically maps the view A to a key called view A. So if I want to navigate to view A, I simply say, hey, I'm going to view A. Okay. So I think that's good. So let's go ahead and let's run this because we actually haven't, let's build. We haven't built in a while. Did I delete all that test code? I hope I did. Otherwise, we'll get some build errors. Oh, cool. Okay, it worked. Now, keep in mind, as you watch us work in a Prism app, we're not creating these views. We're not creating these services. We're not creating view models. We're not creating anything. Prism's creating it all for us, right? So, here's the app. That all functions. Now what's supposed to happen is when I hit this click me button, we're going to navigate to view A. And there's view A. We just navigated to view A. Now, pretty simple, right? It's very simple. Prism handled the complexities of navigation for you. Because, especially if you're new to this, you wouldn't know if that was a modal navigation or a non-modal navigation. Well, just so you know, that was a modal navigation. Okay, so if I hit the back button, we're going to go back to the main page here. Okay, this is view A. Hit the back button. Can you see that? Do I need to move this? Am I in the way? Hit the back button. Okay, now that's a modal navigation. And I know this because we're not inside of a navigation page. Okay, so what happens when we're inside of a navigation page? Let's go back to our main app.xaml.cs. Okay. Now, remember where I deleted the navigation page? Here we are registering the navigation page for navigation with the Prism system. Well, Prism allows you to do what's called deep linking. And this is how you build up a navigation URI. So I can simply say, hey, navigation page slash the page I want to go inside that navigation page.
Another one.
What's that?
Another one.
Cloud Ronin, thank you for the
Another
follow.
one.
I appreciate you, my
Another
friend.
And another
So,
one.
by using links, because technically navigation in Prism is URI based. So I can actually take a URI from a website and I can map that instantly to a deep link inside of this application automatically, right? So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, when the app starts up, I'm going to have a navigation page, and then I want you to immediately push main page on there, which is called my page. Actually, I don't want to confuse everyone, so let's change this back to main page. Okay, I changed that mapping. I got rid of that special key, and we're just going with the default key now. So now I'm saying main page is going to be put inside of a navigation page. So let's see what happens to our UI with just that slight change. Come on, let's get this baby. Get this baby, shall we? Okay, so first off, notice right away, we have a new blue title bar at the top, right? This is new. This title page was not there before because we're inside of a navigation page now, which means we have this little header that actually will show information to us. It could be buttons, it could be text, right? Whatever. You get that automatically because we're inside of a navigation page. So let's go ahead and enable our button, our checkbox, and let's see what happens when we navigate to view A again. Okay, look at this. View A. Well, we lost our title. Huh, that's weird. Why don't we have a title? Well, let's go to our view and let's add one. I don't know if this will work with hot reload, but let's find out. Oh, it worked. Sweet. Okay, so there's our title. You see that? Now look here. We have a back button. We have a software back button now. And this is solely because this is a non-modal navigation. We are within the contents of a navigation page. And any navigation we do within this page will be considered a push async. These are terms that you'll have to learn if you're doing basic Xamarin navigation. Okay, but the Prism navigation makes this super easy for you. Okay, pretty slick, right? Okay. Bam, close that. So, there is so much to this. Now, I only have about 40 minutes left. So if there is something specific you would like to know, please ask your questions in the chat because I'm just going to keep talking. But I want to make sure with the time I have left that I cover any questions anyone may has about Prism navigation, a specific feature maybe you're confused about, right? Anything like that. But okay, I'm going to keep going. So I have some tools I would really like to show everyone, right? A one pocket pimp isn't talking what you normally do. Yes, I talk a lot. I talk a whole bunch. Now, we are just scratching the surface of Prism here. And really, I mean, I could do an all-day workshop with the content we have, right? But my build session starts in 37 minutes. So I'll need to get going for that one. However, there are some really cool tools available to help you better learn Prism and to help scaffold your projects extremely quickly that I would like everyone to understand. Harrison, an absolute URI resets that. Oh, great point. Harrison464. You are perfect. Okay. This is a great distinction that I need to clarify. So in Prism, there are two types of navigation. There's relative navigation, and there's absolute navigation. So let's talk about that. So Relative navigation is basically kind of what it sounds like. Navigation occurs relative to the page you're calling it from. So in this case, we're navigating to a main page, which we have wrapped in a navigation page. Now, here, when we call navigate async view A, we are navigating relative to the main page to view A. Okay, so we're essentially going from main page to view A. Perfect. Okay, that's relative navigation. You're always navigating relative to where you're calling navigate async. And this is important to understand, especially when we get into master detail pages, understanding where you're calling navigate from to get the behavior that you're looking for. Now, there's another concept of absolute navigation. Now, absolute navigation will reset the navigation stack to a completely new stack. So in this particular example, on the main page, I'm going to convert this to an absolute navigation. And how do I do that? I prefix it with a slash. That's it. A backslash. That's all we're doing. Or is that a forward slash? Is that a forward slash? Because it's leaning forward? Yes. Forward slash. I always get that confused. Am I the only one that confuses a backslash with a forward slash? Like this one? I think that's the backslash because it's leaning back, right? Yeah. Yes, it will fall forward. Thank you. I always do that. I can't help it. I don't know what it is. Okay, so watch the behavior difference. What happens when we do that absolute navigation to reset the entire navigation stack? So nothing should change initially where we have the main page wrapped in a navigation page. So we're going to see the header at the top with our testing label, and we have our checkbox. But watch what happens now, because previously we had the back button, we had the title of the view A, right? So I'm going to click me. Whoa! Whoa! What happened? Okay, well, this might be a modal, right? Let me hit the back button. What happens when I hit the back button? We exit the application. Because what we did was we completely reset the entire navigation stack. An absolute navigation is essentially equivalent to saying main page equals new whatever page you're talking about. Okay, that's an absolute. So that's very important to understand. Now, great point, Harrison. I'm so glad you brought that up. For the most part, when you're asking yourself, when would you use absolute? The most common areas like login screens, right? Where you don't want people to be able to go back. Like, so if you show a login screen, you don't want to just do a modal navigation or a non-modal navigation forward, because they can always hit the back button and get back to the navigation screen. I mean, to the login screen. You don't want that. You want to reset that navigation stack so they can't hit the back button to get back to it. I mean, that's just right UI design, that flow. Okay. And you know, there are a lot of cool features in the navigation system that you could take advantage of. Like, for example, I'll just kind of briefly cover them, but I could say, let's say I'm in a huge navigation stack because I mentioned deep linking, right? So for example, let's say I had a whole bunch of pages. I could say navigation page / main page / view A / view B / C, right? I can totally do that. Easily do that. And that's awesome. Not only that, let's talk about something else. Before I get to the tooling, I mean, I'm getting short on time, but this is important. The next question you're going to have is, well, Brian, how do I pass parameters back and forth? Right? Well, this is where we start talking about iNavigation aware interface. Okay, so for example, let's say I want to pass parameters to view A from main page. Well, there are a couple ways to do this. So one way is I'm going to create a new navigation parameters object. And I'll say p.add the key, which is ID, and then a value, which I don't know, it could be like 3, whatever. And then we can pass those parameters along with the navigation. So how do we get this in the view A view model? Well, easy. We're going to implement an interface called navigation aware. And this is going to give us 2 methods, onNavigated from and onNavigated to. Okay. So these are pretty self-explanatory. Whenever we navigate to this view A, this method will be invoked. Whenever we navigate away from view A, this method will be invoked. So for example, if I wanted to get those parameters, I could say var id equals parameters.getValue. Let's get value. I think I'll say it's an int. And it's ID. The key is ID, right? And then let's set the title equal to, I don't know, something. The ID is something like this, right? Whatever. Let's run this. Wait, did I pass it? I want to make sure I passed it. Yep, I did. Okay. So now let's run this. And check out how easy it is to get parameters back and forth. Come on. This drives me nuts. Okay, so we're going to click that. Click me. The ID is 3. See that? So we were able to pass those parameters to the next page easily. Now, there are some side effects to doing that. You may have noticed like a slight like delay in getting that value. And that's because the onNavigated to occurs after the page has actually been added to the navigation stack, right? So this may not be the best place. What you may want to do is implement what's called initialize. Initialize. And initialize is called the first time this view model is created, instantiated. And you may want to move this into that method, because this is when you initialize all the state in the view model that you may be coming from the previous view. This is before any bindings in the UI may update, and you want to prevent that lag or that delay that you may see the text change right in front of your eyes because that binding updates, right? And there is an async version of this, but I don't like to show that because for some reason, a lot of people think async await actually means multi-threading, but it doesn't, because you'll actually delay the entire view creation process until that async method is returned because you're awaiting it. So let's click this, and there, you don't get that delay. You don't get that weird jarring effect because we initialized this view before the bindings were set, right? Or not before the bindings. Before it was added to the navigation stack, so that state was already in place when the view was visualized, and you didn't get that weird binding update delay, right? And so, for example, if I put a breakpoint on navigated from, when I hit the back button on my software, we're going to hit this breakpoint. See that? If I go back to this, I can hit the hardware back button, and we'll still hit that breakpoint, right? Harrison, did I understand your correct async and await is not multi-threading? Yes, that is a huge, massively misinterpreted assumption of async await. Async await does not mean that your UI is going to be multi-threaded and responsive. It does not equal multi-threading at all in the least bit. And so a huge problem, a massive mistake I see people doing is, okay, let's say we're going to do the async version of this. Right? So let's implement this interface. It's slightly different. We're going to get some of this. Let's go return task.delay. I don't know, 2 seconds. Now, this is async await. Like, okay, I'm initializing async. So when I navigate, this should just happen and everything's going to be smooth. But let's watch what actually happens when you do this. And this task.delay is just mimicking something like an HTTP call, or maybe you're reaching out to some type of web service and you're awaiting the result, right? Watch what happens when we navigate. So your assumption is that this is going to navigate, load the page, and whenever this content comes back, it's just going to show up. That is a wrong assumption. That's not how async await works. We are awaiting the result of initialize async to come back. So we're going to click this. 2 seconds, then it navigated. Right? Click. It's paused. It's waiting. It's waiting for that result to come back. Right? So you do not... I highly discourage the use of initialize async unless the result is instantaneous, because this will pause navigation. Period. You will not go to the next page until this has returned. That's just how async await works. Do you have a convention you like to use for naming parameters like static strings on view models? Not really. I mean, it just depends on what it is. Right? Just depends. I don't really have any conventions. I name the parameters what they are, essentially. Like if this was a person ID, I would call my parameter, person ID. Now, what you're asking is, would you have statics? Right? Yeah, I would probably have some type of static class to represent common IDs to get rid of those magic strings, right? So what I mean by that is like public static class, I don't know, page names, right? Something like this. And then you would have public const main page equals, you could do, I'm just gonna do this main page. And then let's do one for view A too. View A, right? Something like that. And then you would actually navigate to those. So page names dot view A. Something like that. Did I call it page names? What did I call it? Where did I put that? Oh, I guess it helps if I put the type. Yeah, that helps. Right, and then you would have that, right? And then you would do the same for like parameters. Maybe have a public. Well, it doesn't even need to be public. It's just a habit of mine. Actually, these would be internal. Internal static class navigation parameters or something like that, right? And then you would put your ID in here and stuff like that. Right, you get the idea. So, yes, I do like to get rid of many magic strings as possible in a production application. And a lot of the demos I do, I don't really spend time on that because it's demo code. But yes, in production applications, you will see this. Okay. One thing I never, ever want to see in anyone's code is something like this. Let me raise that. Never, ever do this. And the reason you will never, ever do this is because you have just broken the MVVM design pattern. You have now added a dependency on view types, UI types in your view model. And that is a huge no-no. So never do this. Please never do that. Ever, 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 ever. Never. Ali, in general, asynchronous programming, multi-threading, and concurrency are close concepts that many people don't understand their difference. Yes, And I really sometimes wish async await was never created, because at least in the old days when you wanted to actually do multi-threading, you had to understand what the heck you were doing to make it work. And now everyone it's just really confusing of how it actually works, right? Okay. One more thing I want to show off before I get into showing some really cool productivity tools is, so we talked about iNavigation aware, knowing when you're navigating to something, knowing when you navigated from something, right? But how do you prevent navigation? Let's say I'm on this bindable I'm on this main page view model, and I want to prompt the user. I want to make a decision. I want to do something before navigation's ever allowed to happen, right? Well, in that case, we have something called iConfirm navigation, and iConfirm navigation async. I'm just going to do this one for demo purposes. So this interface essentially allows you to decide if you're going to allow navigation to occur. So you can, here we pass in some parameters. So now I could say something like this. I could say var id equals parameters dot get value int id, right? I can get the ID. I could say, hey, if ID equals, whoops, didn't mean to do that. If ID equals 3, return false. You're not allowed to navigate if the ID is 3, right? Something like that. Whoops. Return false. Else, sure, go ahead. Return true. And let's fix that. There we go. Okay, so on the main page, and we're passing in 3 right here. So we already know what's going to happen, but I'm going to hit this breakpoint. But now imagine this, you're showing dialogues, you're checking logic within the view model itself, you're checking state, entry forms. If it's in a save state, maybe you need to prompt them to save their work before they navigate away, something like that. But so I'm going to say click me, and then we're coming to this can navigate. And look, it's going to say, oh, return false. And look, we didn't go anywhere. We're not allowed to go. We're not. Whoop, nope, navigation, sorry. So this is very useful when you need to control that navigation flow and make decisions. Maybe you got to be logged in before you hit the next page. So you're going to say, oh, is this person logged in? No? Oh, well, then let's take them to the login page, right? So navigate to the login page because you're not logged in. Something like that, right? You kind of get the idea there. All right. Any questions on that so far? Because now I got some time. I want to show some really awesome tools. Okay. So let's go with, I'm going to close this solution. And we're going to create a new project. And there is a cool extension I wrote called the app map. You may or may not have heard of the app map, but, oh, hold on. Ali, let's say I want to develop an API for showing error pop-ups. What is the best practice to do that? Should we navigate to a new pop-up page or create a new one? I'm not quite sure I understand the scope of what you're trying to do. If you're trying to create an extension, kind of like there's a couple of pop-up APIs out there already. And so they automatically work with Prism as well. It just depends on the scope of your pop-ups. What do they do? Right? I mean, some pop-ups make sense just popping up on the existing screen. Some make sense going to a new screen. It really depends on the implementation details or the goal of your pop-ups. What are they supposed to do? Right? Okay, so let me just close this. Let's go back to our extensions and manage extensions. And I want you to search for the Infragistics app map. Okay? When you do that, we're going to create a new project. And this is an app map project. Sure, give it a name. That works for me. App map So we're going to get a very similar experience, right? Pick your platform, Android, iOS, UWP, whatever you want to code for, platforms you want to target. Let's choose dry IOC. You see this checkbox? This is new. Show app map. So let's go ahead and create that. And what happens is you now get a Visual Studio, like Visio. What the heck? I've never seen that before. That's a dark mode issue, I bet. I bet that's a dark mode issue. Anyways, that's very strange. Visual Studio's window is superimposed on mine. But so what this is, it's a Visio type experience that allows you to design the entire navigation flow of your application. So I can say, look, I want a login page. And when they log in, we're going to navigate to a master detail page, right? Wait, what is my... Okay. And so we're going to do, after they log in, I'm going to do an absolute navigation to the master detail page, right? But I may have to have some type of sign up page. So maybe we'll keep this in here, right? Maybe we'll have a sign up. I don't know. Something like that. And then we'll just keep these the same. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe, I forgot what my, oh, there it is. Maybe one of these navigates to something as well. Maybe we're going off to another child page here. Right, so this child 2 will navigate to another child, something like this. Right. But essentially, I get to design, Harrison, isn't this cheating? It is. I can design the entire navigation flow of my application, control my views folder, my view models folder, base classes, right? And then I'm going to generate the app map. And so what's going to happen is, oh my God, that was fast. Using Prism, it created all the projects I selected using the container of my choice. It created all the views, all the view models, and registered all of those for navigation and created all the code to make that happen. Right, so here's all the pages that we've registered for navigation. There's all the views, and here's all the view models. And all these are, I mean, they're pretty basic, right? But that's it. So I'm not going to click anything else. We see that we're set to login page. So I'm just going to build and let's run this thing. Dan, it's a real shame your boss found out about that extension. Yeah, no kidding. But you know what? They let me do a lot of things on N4G6 time, so I'll give them this all day long. And it's free. This is completely free for everybody, and it's on the marketplace. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this as our startup project. Yes, I know. I'm not worried about that. I need to update it. So let's go ahead and deploy that and see what we get. Because this is pretty freaking awesome. And I'm not saying that just because I wrote it. Well, maybe. A little bit. Okay. Come on. This is the worst part. Is the initial deploy of the app takes the longest. Alex, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so here's our login page. We can go to our setup, our sign up page. We can go back. Now we're going to go to our master detail, right? That was an absolute navigation. Now we have our master. Here's our child 1, child 2. Like, so I'll say child here. Child 1. Child 2. Child 2 actually navigated to another page, which we say, I forgot what we called it. Child something. Chill page. Chill page. And we have a navigation bar at the top. And we're back to our master detail page. How freaking cool is that? We literally, we wrote zero code for that to happen. Zero code. And this is free for everyone. Just search the marketplace or extensions here for AppMap and install it and have fun. Go at it. I use this a ton because I create a lot of like prototypes for customers and stuff. So I use this mainly for prototyping, really quick. Just stub that stuff out, right? So another thing I want to talk about, Dan, your code sucks. Doesn't make use of your await extension. Not yet. And then there was another question I think I missed. Ali mentioned, doesn't Prism support autofac anymore? No, it does not support autofac anymore. I believe autofac is the container that decided to go immutable. Immutable meaning it can't change. The registrations can't change after the container has been created. And so that immediately makes autofac incompatible with Prism modularity, right? So you can use autofac if you want, but it will not support modularity. So we don't even ship a NuGet package for it anymore, but you can add it yourself. It's really easy to do, right? Okay, so another thing I want to do is, let's stop this. I'm going to add some awesome NuGet packages here. So I may not have said this, I don't know, but I work for the company Infragistics, as you can see by my banner over there in the corner over there. It says Infragistics, right? And so we ship some pretty awesome controls. I just want to pick one. I don't know, XF. What do you guys want to see? How about some gauges? Gauges are fun and easy, right? Or a scheduler. Data grid, charts, barcode. No, I'll just do some gauges. Fine. So I want to show you some of the cool advantages that you'll have if you use Infragistics Xamarin.Forms components. Now, all I did was I installed the gauge components into my AppMap project that I created with AppMap, right? Let's open up. I don't know which one we want to play with, honestly. You know what? The login page will probably be best. We're just going to dink around. So let's come in here and just comment. No, we don't have to comment anything out. I'll just stick it right here. So one thing that's unique is we have our own toolbox, which is powered by NuGet. So as you can see, we have all the Xamarin.Forms controls, but we also have the Infragistics controls that we added via our NuGet package. So for example, I want to add a radio gauge. I'll just drag it over. It adds the XMLNS namespace for me and sticks it right in my XAML. Well, not only that, if you go to our toolbox, things like grid. I can hold, you see this? I can hold control, click and drag, and I can bring out a huge snippet, not just your default crappy little useless snippet that Microsoft gives you. We give you much more functional snippets just by holding control, click, drag, right? Dan, does it work with Aurora controls too? No, why would we care about Aurora controls? We're Infragistic. We don't care about Aurora controls, right? So, okay, this is pretty cool, right? This is pretty cool. So let me just run what we have, and let's see what it looks like. Does it work with my custom controls that I made? No, no, it doesn't. It works with Infragistics controls. Okay, so let's let that build. And I should see a very empty, blank-looking gauge as soon as this deploys to my Nexus. Dan, lame.
You love me. You really
Soaring
love
away.
me.
Thank you for the follow. It's not broken, Dan. Get Miley. Get out of here.
You love me. You really
Okay.
love me.
Oh my god, is this still deploying? Oh, there we go. One pocket pimp. Oh wait, we can do that. Oh, one pocket pimp. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for someone to turn me into a Spartan.
One pocket pimp redeemed the Spartan mask. Hooah! Okay, so here is our gauge that I got. And you know what we need to do? Actually, we need to update this because I want to show the power of Xamarin.Forms hot reload at the same time. So let's do this. Let's manage NuGet packages, go to updates for NuGet. I blame Dan. I do too. Let's update Xamarin.Forms to the latest. Dude, you missed it. Maddie showed the power of hot reload earlier. Well, I'm going to show the real power of hot reload. Their demos got nothing on me. Okay, so I just updated Xamarin.Forms. Let's do a rebuild. Yeah, I'm gonna show it in Sparta style. Hooah! Okay, so hopefully hot reload will work now. This is probably the first Xamarin month you've done in months. I think it is, actually. And I'm still using my productivity tools to do it. Okay, so this should actually go away now? Right? Okay, here we go. Because this is going to be Awesome Blossom. Did I just say Awesome Blossom? Really? I said that. Those words came out of my mouth. Spartans do not say Awesome Blossom.
What kind of place is this?
Okay, let's let this redeploy to my Nexus. And I'm gonna test hot reload really quick. Before I get it, I want to make sure that just updating the packages work for me. Okay, hot reload is ready, it says, so let's just hit a space and hit save. Watch our login page. Okay, it works, perfect. Okay, check this out. So, with Inversion of Control, besides having amazing, awesome, out-of-this-world controls, we have design tools that allow you to configure visually these controls. So for example, we also have some quick sets. So this is a designer that you can launch from XAML. And this gives you the ability to control every aspect of this
Gauge, for example, number of ranges. I'll take 10 ranges. It's going to look like this. I want my brushes to be, I don't know, this. You want to give it outlines? Sure. Scales, what do our scales look like? That looks like a cool scale. What kind of needle do you want? How about this weird looking needle? Right? And then obviously, you can go into this and you'll have a property grid which allows you to control every single property this grid this gauge has. So I'm going to apply and close. I'm going to bring up the hot reload. Now I'm going to save. Check this out. Bam! Are you kidding me? No, it's you. You. Right? So I can come back into here, and we have quick sets, for example. Oh, let me mine up. Yep, that looks good. Okay, we'll have quick set, so I can just turn it. You know what? I like this one. Apply and close. Let me open up this. Save. Bam! There's my design. Right? Not only that, I can come in here. I could change the background myself. Open up this configurator. And it changes on the design surface of the configurator. Right? And I could change a different type. Like, oh, you know what? That one looks okay. Right? And these two ranges, I can select the range. I can start messing with these properties on what exactly these things do. I don't know. Right? Do they do anything? I have no idea what these things do. Oh, there's one. There we go. See that? I can mess it all up. or I can just reset it. It's fine. Right? I can just fiddle with this whole thing. Apply and close. You got to see this real time. Boom. Save. Hot reload. That's ridiculous. And so, Invergestics, we're the only control vendor that offers this type of productivity tools. And so if you're using our controls, all of our controls ship with a configurator, right? Which is pretty awesome. Yes, that is the official term, KRJax. It is a control configurator. And so we realized early on that Xamarin.Forms will never have a design surface. And trying to write a production application without any type of visual feedback or any type of, help visually is going to be painful. And what I mean by that, so I'm gonna apply this quick set because it has a tons of ranges and a ton of settings, and then I'm gonna stop debugging really quick because I'm gonna format my code. That is the code that it takes to generate a gauge that looks like that. Right? Can you imagine trying to hand write something like that? You're crazy. You're out of your mind. It's not going to happen. Right? But I can come in here, completely customize this gauge as much as I'll go back to default. Right? Apply and close. And we're back to our default gauge. Right? So, and another thing, which is awesome. Hold on. Check this out. Check this out. Not Team Explorer. Get rid of that. Let's go to our view model. I'm on login page. Login page. Let's do this. I'm going to add a property. Prop P. I'll make it an int. I'll call it value. Okay, I totally messed that up, didn't I? Value. I'll set its initial value to like, I don't know, 35. It looks like a hard API to use. It is. These are very complex advanced controls. These are not little kitty controls that you'll get anywhere else. Okay, so let's say that I want to data bind that value to that property in the view model. Well, I can create a binding using a naming convention. It knows that my binding context is the login page view model. I'll select that. If I had any converters, they'd show up here. I can do string formats. I'm going to create a binding, apply and close, and it created that binding for me automatically. Right? Not only that, we have great tools around colors, right? Gradients, resources. So if you have resources in your app.config or your app.resources, they would all show up. It's super helpful. Extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. I also use this as a learning tool because Dan pointed out the API surfaces for these charting controls and gauge and stuff, they're pretty deep. It's a pretty wide API surface. So these are a great way to come in here and experiment and learn what these properties actually do. Like I can design this to make it any way I want, right? Just by fiddling around here, trying to see. Oh, that's kind of cool. I'll just sit here and play forever now. Too late. And then it's going to go ahead and create all that code for me, right? Do the WPF controls come with configurators? Some of them do, yes. Yes, some of them do come with the control configurators. And that's especially important with .NET Core 3 because Microsoft decided to break all of their design services and totally screw over their third-party vendors. So we are totally getting shafted by Microsoft because they broke the design surface in Visual Studio. Not only did they break the designers for .NET Core 3, which I can understand that. It's .NET Core, new designer, totally get it. But they're breaking the designer for .NET controls as well. So yeah, they really have done a number on us. But luckily, a lot of our controls are protected because we have these instead. They're launched from XAML, and they don't depend on a design surface, right? Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet, if you ask me. So, that's all I have time for today. Really. Because my build sessions are about to start. And it's lunchtime. I really hope that we learned something today, right? Maybe I showed you something you didn't know. Maybe, I don't know. I hope you got something positive out of it. What sessions am I watching? I don't remember them off the top of my head. I have them in my event thing. I added them to my event. So all I know is I looked at my sessions. They don't start till now. So I was like, okay, I can still stream. I can do what no one else is doing right now. No one else is streaming because they're watching build. Well, you know what? I'll stream. For sure, I'll stream. What about you all? Are you guys gonna watch any build sessions today? Or are you waiting for any other live streamers to come on at all? Anybody? Dan, you're on here, so I'm assuming that there aren't any sessions you care about yet. Right? Some C# WinUI ones on Thursday. Yeah, I'm going to watch those. Next session I care about is about 1 p.m. Pacific. Okay. Actually, I know which one you care about. I'm in that same one, actually. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. But KRJax, yes, I'm going to be in the WinUI ones on Thursday as well. For sure. I've been playing with Uno. I've been playing with WinUI a little bit. So, still can't stand UWP XAML. The second I created a UWP app, I haven't created one in forever, but I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. You know what? Let's just see. Maybe they've changed. Within 3 seconds, I hit a roadblock. And then within 10 seconds, I hit another one. The code to change the freaking title in a UWP app is ridiculous. Stupid. Because they automatically append the app name to your title. And to get rid of that, you have to like retemplate the whole freaking thing. It's ridiculous. And yes, Dan, why don't they have an XMLNS definition attribute? Alex, you watched some of the keynote with Scott? Yeah, I missed the keynote stuff. I figured that'd be recorded, and honestly, he's probably only talking about Azure, and I'm not really interested in Azure. This is like the MS Azure event. If you look at the sessions, this is nothing but an Azure event. But there were a couple, like, I really wish there were some Visual Studio extensibility sessions. I really like those. Oh, they didn't talk about Azure. I'm so blown away, Dan. I can't believe it. I wouldn't have believed it unless I saw it with my own eyes. Crazy. Oh, okay. Scott H didn't, but Scott G did. Oh, I thought you were talking about Scott G, not Hanselman. I know Scott G did. Scott H, he's kind of, you know, he does it all. So, all right. Well, you know what? I honestly don't know if we're gonna find anybody to actually. Let me mute this right quick. Actually, if there's anyone streaming that we can raid. Oh, there is. Team. Let's go live coders. I might as well raid build. Can we raid build? Are they on Twitch? Is build on Twitch? I'm just curious. Oh, they are, really? You got a link? You got a name? Microsoft developer. Let me check it out. What are they doing? Let's look. Let's look at what Microsoft developer's doing. Microsoft developer, Microsoft build, 2020. It kind of looks like a commercial. Is this an ad? Group project manager. Oh, okay. Okay. No, you know what? Let's do that. Let's raid Microsoft developer. All right, everyone. As always, thank you very much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure. I cannot wait to see you on Thursday might be bad for me. I don't know if I'm able to stream on Thursday, but I'll see you next Tuesday for sure. I have some customer meetings and stuff coming up, so we will see about that. But Jabba, thank you. Thank everyone for coming today. Let's give Microsoft developer a raid and just spam them. Spam the crap out of the chat with emotes and just crazy stuff, all right? Thank you once again, everyone. Have a great day. I will see you next time. Out of here. Raiding.